I know deep down inside I'm an entrepreneur, and that's kind of where we got to know each other. Is I became an instructor. I teach national registry to paramedics and to EMTs and so forth. And then I became an instructor of advanced cardiology and pediatric advanced life support and stuff like that.
You've recertified me on multiple occasions. I can vouch that you are the single greatest instructor I've ever had. What else do you certify?
Well, right now, I'm no longer doing NRP just because there's some changes to the neonatal resuscitation program, which
Hmm.
NRP is very similar to PALS. PALS is more cardiac driven. NRP is more respiratory driven. But primarily it's BLS, ACLS, and PALS. My email is john at CPR4Kids.org, and I can the number 4kids.org,
Yeah, we'll get
and we
into
can do
that
all
one.
that. But I've always enjoyed instructing. I've enjoyed instructing. I and I've always, Glenn, I've always been involved in my kids' life. I've failed at a lot of things in life, uh, but that is one thing that I can honestly say I've given my whole heart to is being a
Mhm.
good father. And so I've always been involved in the PTA, the PTO, the community councils with their schools. And so I've always thought, you know what, I want my kids to know life-saving techniques. And then I want the kids that are around my kids to know life-saving techniques.
Uh,
Some
And
teachers,
this is the CPR for Kids
mhm,
that you it is an
yep,
organization that you founded.
yep. I found it's about 18 years now. And it
Wow.
started with uh, just going to my kids' school, teaching their classmates and their teacher. And then all of a sudden it kind of grew to, hey, we want you to do it for the school. The principal was like, we'd love for you to do this at the school. And then incorporate, a membership has its privileges, right? And so, of course, I get the fire department involved. I call in the flight paramedics and the flight crews to come out. And I just really, if there's one thing I do, it's usually go over the top on everything, right? And
Yeah.
so just make it really exciting for the kids, like, and it just really builds it up to the point where I started having school districts calling me saying, "Hey, we love what you're doing for this school and this school district. We'd love for you to come do it for ours." Well, I I'm still a firefighter paramedic. I work 144 hours of paid period every 2 weeks. I'm flying
Wow.
part time. I have 4 active kids. I love my work, but I don't go to work just because I love it. I have obligations that as well.
Right.
And so I was like, how can I do this?
Yeah.
And so I just thought, you know what if I create a web-based program that people can utilize? And that's where CPR4Kids, and the number 4 out of it at that time was for my 4 kids. Um,
And you have an Instagram page for that,
yeah.
right? And just for those listening and watching, this is the Nurse Dad podcast. If you like what we do, please go to www.mynursedad.com. You'll see links. We post podcast episodes weekly, sometimes every 2 weeks on Spotify and YouTube. I want to read with regards to CPR4, the number 4 kids, from what you sent me. It says, has a mission to empower and educate our school-aged children and their families with the knowledge to perform life-saving skills. As of today, we've reached over 300 schools in the U.S. as well as abroad and affected more than 500,000 students. And again, that's Instagram, CPR underscore, the number 4 underscore kids for more information. This is John Rice, who also, if you are a nurse or any other position in the medical field and you need to recertify, and if you're like me and you find out you have like a week to do it or 2 weeks to do it, contact John.
Yep.
I want to know, what did your father say when you became a Force Recon Marine?
Um,
Because now you don't have to beat your chest or overinflate. You've achieved that. What did he say when that happened?
to be honest with you, I don't recall him ever saying anything when I became a Force Reconnaissance Marine. But the thing that does stick out to me is after I graduated recruit training, became a Marine, came home for 10 days, 10 days to visit my family before school. And as I was getting ready to leave, they were about to take me to the airport to drop me off. It was just me and my dad. And that was the only time in my whole life I've ever seen my dad cry. And he hugged me and just told me how proud he was. And
Yeah,
so,
that's, I mean, that you only need one moment like that your whole life with your dad, and that's all you
yeah,
need, something like that. That's amazing.
I just melted. I was just that little kid again. And I just remember holding him and I was surprised. Well, that was the first time first and the only time I've ever seen my dad cry. And I was just like, oh, wow, this is really amazing. So, yeah, I know that like from talking to my dad later in life, dad has always had confidence in me. And he probably won't admit it, but even back when I told him I wanted to be a Marine, he probably wouldn't admit it, but I knew in his eyes to be like, "Oh, I love you, son, but have
Yeah.
you looked in the mirror? You're you're not really Marine Corps material, you know."
It's a testament to you and to your resolve, even at that young age, that you could go to MWR, which is, again, we were saying it's like a dead space, and still be motivated. When I was at the School of Infantry, which is where, for those who don't know, Marines will complete boot camp, and they go to the School of Infantry to pick up. If they're going to be infantry, they pick up infantry training. If they're not going to be infantry, they go there anyway, just to rehash infantry techniques before they go on to whatever school they have to do, truck driving or whatnot,
Yeah.
military police. And it's also a place where Marines in the fleet come back for more advanced skills. But in terms of like the students who were in, MCT or infantry training battalion, those who would get hurt, they would have to obviously go into a unit to wait to pick up with another training unit.
Mm.
And they were mixed in with the crap bags, or the people who just were unmotivated and
Mhm.
going to be processed out. And we always were saying we need to do something, because those people are such a bad influence on a Marine who otherwise is fine, but is waiting to get picked up. Because then, like a corrupt bird in the ear, these very ignoble types who are getting processed out for all the wrong
Yeah.
reasons, they would kind of speak to them. And unfortunately, some of those Marines who otherwise would have been fine, they kind of heard bad advice, and for the fact that you were in a situation like, where you could have easily just screwed around, or put your feet up and say to hell with it, you stayed motivated, and that really is a testament to you.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
I'm not surprised. With regards to your teaching, I remember I did a clinical before I became a nurse. It was at a not a rehab center. It was for people who had drug addiction,
Mhm.
and just like a house, that had sponsors, and they would meet, like, their weekly meetings. And the leader who had used to have a cocaine addiction, he said something I never forgot. He said, with regards to, like, if you were to be a sponsor, or if you have anything to teach somebody, he said, you don't keep anything you don't give away. And I always love the instructor role as a nurse, or anytime that anyone's willing to listen, because I also don't impose myself on others. Because aside from keeping you sharp in what you know,
Mhm.
you do get feedback, or you learn more about what you already know by having to teach people on their level, because everyone has their own way
Yeah.
of learning. I find like you can revisit your skill set and avoid stagnation
Mhm.
by entering the instructor role. Is there something of that has made you pursue teaching? What is it that
Yeah.
has lured you with that?
I think it could be attributed to a couple things. And one, I've always said this, especially in the fire service. As a firefighter, you're in an alpha world. Tons of alphas walking around thinking we all know the same thing. Uh, we're always competing, right? We're always competing as
Yeah.
where we stand in the pecking order. Uh, you can maybe not have a great working knowledge of a particular thing. For example, hazmat, hazardous materials. There's only a few people in the fire service that I know that are just absolute hazmat gurus. And they love it,
Mhm.
right? Yeah. We have our protocols. We have our punch list to say, okay, I arrive on scene. I see this is what's going up. I'm going to go ahead and take command. I'm going to go ahead, set up a cordon. I'm going to do some investigation. I'm going to go in and try to find out what the product is without getting myself or my crew killed. I'm going to go ahead and investigate, get it, come on out. And hopefully by then, someone's going to be there that I can pass this information on to, and then we can come up with a game plan. And that's typically how hazmats go. But you find typically those ones that talk louder or curse a lot or really strut around like a peacock with their feathers all out. Those are the ones that are usually like, okay, they're weak in
Mhm.
some aspect. I don't know what it is, but they're weak in some aspect. But they can usually BS their way through it. Uh, when it comes to emergency medicine, you can't BS your way through it. You either
No.
know it or you don't know it. And for me, I've always remember how I told I struggled in high school. I've always been what I consider kind of a slow learner, and I need to hear it and live it 3 times in order for it to really solidify with me. A lot of people laugh about that when I was like, yeah, I need to see it and feel it 3 times in order to get the gist of it. Um, but for me, just because I have a license or just because I have a certification or just because I have a degree does not make me above someone. And that just means that I'm either good at taking a test, or it could mean that I'm good at discipline to attend class,
Right.
or I
Yeah,
maybe
you've
have
completed
great
something.
memorization. And as soon as I'm done with the test, I and forget about it. So when it comes to teaching through experience, and it didn't come on quickly, to be able to sort through what is really important, what's the meat and potatoes, and what is the fluff, right? Kind of like with American Heart Association. I always preface at the beginning, hey, if you're looking for that instructor that's going to stand up in front of you and tell you how awesome AHA is and all the great things it does all over the world, I'm not that instructor. If you are looking for someone that's going to stand up here and kill you by death by PowerPoint, I'm not your instructor. I want to use real world scenarios. I want you to be able to utilize as much of your 5 senses as you possibly can so that you can get a feel to be like, oh, crap, this is important. This is
Mhm.
important. And when it comes to emergency medicine, everything about it, and I've preached, I shouldn't say preach this, but I've taught this many, many, many years. When it comes to emergency medicine, there are 4 things that you have to take away from it. Number one, first and foremost, you have to know your equipment. You have to know your equipment that you use. Number two, you have to know the location of your crash carts or your drug bags. Number three, you got to know the drugs that are in that crash cart or drug bag. I'm not saying that you need to know your doses, but at a minimum, if you do know your doses,
Mhm.
kudos to you. But at a minimum, you need to know what those drugs are and what they do. And then finally, number four, you need to know where your algorithms are. And if you've got your algorithms, those 4 things, you can accomplish whatever. Your skills of
Yeah.
anti, starting an IO, calculating a drip set, all of that is all
You've got your
fluff.
framework.
Yeah, you've got your
Mhm.
framework. But if you can do those 4 things and you can take that away from an emergency medicine class, I say that my job is complete as an instructor. I mean, there's more
Yeah,
to it,
you
of
were the best
course.
instructor I ever
I,
had, that's for
I
sure.
appreciate that. For those of you that are listening, uh, I pay Glenn handsomely for those types of comments. Just kidding.
No way. Nope. But you made an indelible impression on me, which is hence why we're talking now and hearing your story. Again, thank you for sharing, for opening up. You are a tough guy. You are an alpha, but you're also in touch. You also exhibit an astounding level of emotional intelligence. Your story is incredible. I wish there was a lot more time to get into some sea stories when you were a Force Recon Marine. I'll have to have you back on the podcast at some point.
Yeah,
I would love to talk about some of your experiences. With regards to firefighting, I remember I did a podcast with a buddy of mine. He was a corpsman. He deployed 4 times, twice with the Marines. He lived across the street from a fire department, and he said that growing up, because he was isolated, growing up, he looked at firefighters as the sort of men that he wanted to be, the way they carried themselves. Growing up the way you did, like every young man, we have our coaches or role models or men that we aspire to be. Were firefighters in any way a visual that you noticed?
Um, I grew up living in the country, and so we did have a volunteer fire department. that somewhat close to my house. But I never really seen much of that growing up. There was that time where I thought, oh yeah, I would love to be a police officer. And it crossed my mind to be a firefighter. But really what stoked it in me to become a firefighter was when I got out of the Marine Corps, starting to have a young family. I started thinking for retirement, and I wanted to start my own business because at my core, I'm an entrepreneur and I'm a salesman. Um, I don't know if there's an elegant way to put that I'm a salesman, but I love interacting with
Well, you have to
people.
be a people person.
Yeah,
I mean, it's adventurous to wake
yeah.
up and, because my dad owned a forklift business. It's exciting to wake up and know that your day is yours, that you have to map out a day, that anything could happen.
Hmm.
It's not just going to a sure thing like
Yeah.
me going to work tonight. I know the patients will be a little different, but I have a pretty good idea of what categories they're going to be and how many and
Hmm.
what the tempo would be. So I understand what you're saying
Yeah.
with that. When you were at Force Recon, you weren't obviously the corpsman, but Marines are taught a lot of medical skills.
Mhm.
Like when I was in Marines, had combat trauma lifesavers.
Mhm.
When I was a corpsman, I had to have a litter team who would directly help me if they were available with multiple casualties.
Mhm.
Did you get into medicine or medical at some point
Yeah,
as a Force Recon Marine?
I dabbled a little bit in the fact that everyone was National Registry EMT at a minimum, and then of
Okay.
course we had a
That's a
core.
big that's a big
Yeah.
deal, like, when you get out
Hmm.
and how you follow
Yeah.
the path that you did. It
Mhm.
wasn't just a bright idea like, "Oh,
Mhm.
I'll get into medical."
Yeah.
So you were certified.
Yeah, and I would say this too, to not only to you but to also and to everyone out there is, one, never burn bridges. Never burn bridges because you never know when you are going to need something. We would love to say, hey, uh, things happen to us because of who we are and our knowledge base. But the truth of the matter is, if you want to pull back all the layers of the onion per se, it is who you know. So never burn bridges and always keep opportunity and always continually educate yourself. Some of the things that I educate myself with are a lot of times to people are like, oh, that's frivolous information. Why do you need to know that? Well, I tell you why, because I'm going to tie it in to this story and make it lifelike and be able to reach two of the people in this hundred of people in this auditorium, because not everyone is going to learn like John Rice. And I have come across people, I've had I've had physicians in my class that were difficult, where I'm just like, oh my gosh, I'm on your team, my friend. I'm not trying to butt
Mhm.
heads with you here. I want to get through this class just as much as you do. I know the family that's waiting on you to get home. For the time being, let's come to an agreement where we're just gonna push through this. We can have a sidebar if you would like, but let's stay focused.
I love what you're doing with your organization, CPR4Kids. If you're feeling confident with a choking victim or somebody who stops breathing, when my kids are older, I want to take
Yeah,
them with me on
yeah,
one of my recertifications, get them
yeah,
BLS certified. It's a superpower, as they say, to know that an infant or a child or adult can start choking or just collapse, and you have a frame of knowledge to use. And, with regards to CPR, if you don't start that right away, the chances that the patient's going to survive are
mhm,
quite low, or if you don't know how to do it correctly.
yeah,
And I've seen that in the ER too many times, where even the EMT isn't doing the chest compressions correctly. And I say to myself, expect that this patient doesn't make it. And 9 times out of 10, if the CPR is poor, they don't make it.
yeah, I
And
agree.
it's such an important thing to do. Even yesterday, my 3-year-old put something in her mouth. I had to quickly take it. If you know how to respond to that horrible situation, you're going to
Yeah,
feel a lot more relieved
yeah,
just by just
yeah,
functioning around your
yeah.
children.
And Glenn,
But
honest with you, even at 3 years of age, um, as odd as it may sound, they play a role in that chain of survivability. They see mom and dad on their phone. They know how to open it up. They know how to dial 911. Uh,
yes,
they're not strong enough to do compressions. They're not strong enough to do, abdominal thrusts or back blows or something like that. But their little legs know exactly like, hey, I need to look both ways before I cross a road. And if mom or dad isn't acting funny and something is going on, I know how to open that front door, and I know how to run and knock on the neighbors next door. I know how to pick up the phone and call grandma or 911 or
Mhm.
something of that nature. So even at a very young age, they can play a vital role in that chain of survivability.
When you go to the schools, what is the average age of the kids?
Well, we try to cater to everyone, but ideally, it's going to be your first graders through the beginning of junior high. Uh,
And so, like a junior high kid is capable of chest
uh-huh.
compression. So I guess you cater it to
Yep.
the different age.
Yes and no. There's two sides of CPR for kids. There's the adult side, which teaches caregivers and parents. And this is where I have that very intimate conversation with you to say, hey, Glenn, this is what we do. This is how we're going to handle this. You step up, you be the hero of your family, because everyone is going to look to you to be that example. And it's not difficult to do. It's that slight edge. It's giving that 1% or knowing just that 1% more knowledge than you did yesterday that can really make a difference. And then there's the kids side of CPR4Kids. And this is geared towards even those 3 to 5 year olds where they have coloring pages that they can print off and color the firefighter or color the nurse or the physician or the fire truck or the ambulance, things of that nature. But what I find is once they hit that ninth grade level and those hormones are really raging, uh,
Mhm.
it almost becomes uncool. It becomes
Yeah.
uncool to listen to mom and dad. It becomes uncool to
Mhm.
listen to someone that comes into the classroom. And
Yeah.
so, even though we provide that for that age group, it's not really, I don't want to say target market because everyone is our target market, but it's not really, is underutilized in that age group.
Yeah.
But I will
Even
say
if you could
this.
put the seed in their mind is an
Yeah.
accomplishment because a lot of people don't even think about it.
Imagine this. I know that the school system is changing right now. The whole educational system in the United States is changing. It's going through a process. As of recently, in high school, did you know that only roughly 2% of everyone that is in high school is required to learn CPR? And they have
Wow.
to be, it's during a home ec course, and it's only given to a certain number of people in that class.
Come to think about it, yeah, come to think about it, that would be really worthwhile to fold that into the standard curriculum that at some point in school,
Yeah,
high school, for example, everyone learns
yeah.
BLS. It would be such a impactful
I've
class.
always said this, Glenn. It is not a matter of if, but a matter of when. And it doesn't matter where you live at. Like here, I live
Cool.
in Utah. A lot of people say, oh, it's Utah. It's a bubble. It's this beautiful scenery. The people are nice. Everyone is loving of their neighbor. And that is true. But we are sitting on a fault line. And we are about 50 years beyond our 100-year earthquake. And so it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And the
I'll finally get to Utah, John, and that's when it'll happen. That's my luck. I'll be en route to your house.
no, it won't. No,
Do you have a website for CPR for kids,
yep,
or is the
yep.
Instagram for now? Oh,
Yeah,
what's your website?
it's CPR4Kids.org. Yeah,
Okay. Oh, that's right.
CPR4Kids.org.
That's right. I saw that.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll have all that information for people. If you're paranoid about being 6'6", sometimes don't wear a starched shirt because you're squared away, my friend. You're squared away. You
That's
make
the
me think.
Marine, bro.
I'm looking at you. I'm like, oh, I need a haircut. Should I have shaved? I'm going to work tonight. I look like.
Yeah, that's the Marine in me, man. That's the Marine in me.
No, I know. And this is the Corpsman in me. I got the Corpsman do. And hey, Doc, you need to get a
Yeah,
shave, Doc. You're out of regs.
yeah.
No, but listen, I do work tonight. You've got a schedule ahead of you. I want to thank you so much, and I mean it. I want to have you back on the podcast at some point, and exchange some sea stories. I want to hear all about some of the things you did in Force Recon that you're willing to talk about.
I would love
But
the opportunity.
thank you so much for doing this. Again, I met you because you were an outstanding instructor for BLS, for PALS, for ACLS, Force Recon. You're a veteran, fellow veteran. I love meeting veterans who are doing well. I think veterans need to see that. It's such a great optic. I love the challenges that you overcame growing up the way that you did, not giving up. You could have easily felt hopeless, but you saw something, you had a goal, and you kept moving forward. And what you're doing, your organization, CPR4, the number 4 kids, love that you're doing that.
I
And a firefighter and a captain.
appreciate
Does
the
somebody
love.
like you ever retire, or you're just like,
No,
keep going?
I can't imagine. Well, I'll retire. I'll be from the fire department,
Yeah, at
but
some point, right?
um, I'll be honest with you. My wife, she is amazing. Her name is Giselle, and truly, she is my queen. She is a beautiful Latina that we have plans for our life together, and truly, she supports me in every possible way, and she motivates me. She too is an entrepreneur. She has multiple businesses, is a professional singer, her own beauty line, her own clothing line, her own skincare studios. She motivates me. And so I can't imagine that I would retire. No, I
We
mean,
call our wives our better halves. Mine is definitely my better half. She's a she's just an incredible businesswoman and an incredible mother. And she, even as busy as she is, she's like, because I'm doing this before I go out to my shift tonight.
yeah,
She gives me an hour, hour and a half during her work hours to do this because she knows how important it is. I can't imagine my life without her, but
yeah.
she is definitely, we say, my rock. She is my rock, my boulder, strong enough to rival anything you got in Utah. All those boulders and rocks
Yeah.
and mountains over there in Utah. My wife she has anchored me down.
So
She's amazing. But thank you again, John.
thank you.
Thank you for doing this, for taking the time. Can't wait to talk to you again. And you have a great rest of your day, my
You
friend.
too, Glenn. Have a good shift tonight. Be safe out there.
Thanks a lot.
God bless. Bye bye.
Well, that is another one in the can, as filmmakers say. An amazing interview. One of my favorites, I have to say. The story about the child in the wheel well. Yeah, I know at the time of recording this, I'm going to go back and edit this video, and I might have to take a day. I do want people who may not be in the medical field to hear something like that, which I wouldn't call it a graphic story. It was certainly a detailed story about his experience, about John's experience with this child in the wheel well of that automobile. The fact that he'd be in his child's first grade class, something like that, elementary school, and the teacher was the mother. Small world. I've had a couple of experiences, not to that degree, where it is. I've seen patients, or I've seen the families of the patients that I've had. They were incredible moments. So if you like what we do here at the Nurse Dad Podcast, please visit www.mynursedad.com. You can also visit my Instagram, nurse.dad. This podcast is available, as I said, Spotify, YouTube, and also Apple Podcasts, but only in audio form on Apple Podcasts. Please subscribe to my YouTube. That's my main hub. YouTube is the only place where I will have short clips from podcasts. So, for example, this podcast is going to be almost an hour and a half. I'll probably have 4 or 5 clips. So again, please visit www.mynursedad.com. There's also a free guide. You fill out your information in the pop-up. In the free guide, there are tips for any student, study techniques that I learned in the military that allow you to go to school, achieve your GPA, your higher GPA. I was only cum laude, 3.5, but I was able to study, achieve my goals, and also not give up on my hobbies. And I think it's just a matter of time management and the combination of certain things. And I learned these techniques in the military, and I put them in the free guide. That's for any student. It doesn't have to be a nursing student. But also in that guide for nurses are some multitasking techniques. I call them majors and minors that would help any novice nurse navigate patient care. And also a little something that Marines have taught me that I saw hold a lot of people back. So there's that in the free guide. Again, you go to www.mynursedad.com, fill out the pop-up. There's my online store. I don't have really any merch, but I do have 2 children's books, Isabel Learns to Share, A Love Letter to My Daughter, and Zach's Dad is Deployed, which features a diverse range of characters whose parents are deployed. That's a nice book. Spotify, YouTube. We have new episodes every week or every 2 weeks. This is something that I really like to do. I am a former Navy Hospital Corpsman, current ER nurse, and proud husband and father. Thank you so much for giving me your time, for listening. If you enjoyed what you heard, please subscribe. If you didn't enjoy what you heard, I thank you for listening. Stay hungry, be humble, and stay